Chappelle Show. And he famously abandoned the show in the third season and ran away to Africa. And the press went hay on him. And for years, he was known to be void and to be seen. Recently making his comeback, Netflix specials with a massive Netflix multi-million-dollar deal, which of course stirred up and kicked up dust as the letters of the alphabet were angry, as he likes to say himself. So I'm excited to kind of break this down a little bit. So what do you think about the chatter with Dave Chappelle?
Well, to be honest with you, we've talked about this many times in this particular subject. Comedy is not what, let's just say stand-up comedy is not what it used to be. Back in the day, and it sort of predates my age, in the caveman era, we used to sit there and make fun of diversities, cultures, stuff like that. Doesn't matter what race or religion you're from. And it was funny. And it wasn't like it was funny where people were trying to, how do you call it, make fun of people. It was bringing out something, like, for example, when O.J. Simpson killed, his wife, supposedly, people made fun of it all the time. Not because he was a black guy, and not because he's a famous guy, but just because the way it was, and it was found some humor out of it. And as society has progressed to this date, they've taken a little bit more sensitive to what used to be funny,
Yeah.
So
I really found that projection is definitely a thing.
It is. Well, projection has always been in the entertainment industry. It's how the consumer takes it, to be honest with you. Like I said, back in the day, you could make fun of, gay people, racist people, any type of whatever, all that could be done without people taking it seriously. Go, oh, that's pretty funny, even though I'm whatever, that's pretty funny,
Right.
But now it's like you sit there and you just mention certain words, and it's like you're
back in
playing.
the day, you're playing with fire, right? It's like,
Well, you always are, yeah.
There was like a through line where I think there was sort of an understanding also with that kind of humor in the early 2000s and 90s, where the crew and casts were made up of, gay people and trans and stuff like that. So they were all in on the joke. They were the production cast.
I mean, yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, back in the day, entertainment industry, women weren't really out there on location doing this stuff. It was mainly just a man's world, because it's hard work. Just because you see Dave Chappelle on a TV doesn't think in the background that there's quadruple of thousands of things doing, running, sweating, 14-hour days, setting up the set, tearing it down, stuff like that. Numerous hours. I mean, you've been doing lighting and stuff like that. You know how this stuff works. But also, the thing is that when you make a joke like Dave Chappelle has been doing for a number of years, like I said, people seem to take it a little more sensitive than what it should be. For example, if people called me fat, yeah, I know I'm fat, okay, but if they're going to make a joke out of it and it's going to find humorous in it, what's the problem?
Yeah, no, exactly. I think there's a certain element of being able to make fun of ourselves that I think is missing. And, I find that a lot of the issue that I've taken with Dave is actually, and I mentioned this a lot to you, I'm not offended by any of the jokes that Dave has made personally about trans people. I think what's been sad for me is to watch him become more and more hung up on this issue, and to watch it take up time on his comedy slots, which could be more toward building his legacy, Well, and I think that it's misdirection.
Yeah, and I agree with you at some point, but also I think Dave Chappelle, just like all the other actors or comedians that came from that era, and we're talking like the 90s, we're talking about the early, even not before the 80s, it was like Richard Pryor back in the day, phenomenal comic. George Carlin, phenomenal comic. All those great guys.
Gold
But
standard.
the problem is, as media changes And as the social structure changes, topics change, discussions change, right? Again, I go back to where it goes back to, and you can ask any comedian this. They want to tell jokes because it's funny. Okay, it's not funny, necessarily making fun of people, but it's just funny. Comedy shows and stage shows and entertainment shows, even movies, are supposed to bring you to a place to get you out of your normal everyday life.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, but if you go to a comedy show, like I don't go to a lot of comedy at all, because most of the comics that I found were not even funny, to be honest with you. I'd probably go see a Chappelle show. But the thing is that when you go there, you're supposed to be taken to this place and get out of your normal everyday life to where you can enjoy yourself. You can actually enjoy what you're taking in and just laugh and just enjoy this comedic family, if you will, and being entertained in the stories that they're telling.
Yeah, honestly, and I'm really happy that you actually brought up Richard Pryor and George Carlin.
Sam Kensington.
Yes, because I think Dave actually has a really unique connection there with his mentorship from Paul Mooney.
Oh, yeah.
Because Paul Mooney was such a massive, inspiration and mentor to Dave Chappelle. And, Paul Mooney ghost wrote for Richard Pryor for many years. And, I think if you really listen to Paul Mooney's early comedy albums like Race and things like that, Paul Mooney was not somebody you would particularly consider to be PC or politically correct in that kind of fashion. But I think he was bringing the heat and he was telling it like it was. And honestly, he really opened my mind up to the reality of his lived experience, not just, particularly about one specific race or anything like that, but about his specific experience. And I think that kind of carried on to Dave's comedy.
And that's what it is. You hit it right on the nail of the head. The thing is that like all these comedians, right? They're telling stories from their lives, their experiences, but they're jazzing it up. They're making it more than what it is, to make the person smile, to make them laugh. That's the whole point. And so when you get stories like this, the problem is with the mob. It's not with I wouldn't say that, because there was the guy from Seinfeld that kind of took the joke a little too far. When he called I think a person the N-word on the show. Yeah, that's a little too far for me. Okay, for me, for example, I don't like the C word, right? I think that's very intrusive and very demeaning towards women when you call them that. And I don't like the N-word either, because I think the same thing. Regardless of what people use and whatever you want to attain it to me, those are the sort of like, hey, listen, that's not cool. Don't do that. You're just starting more trouble than what you need. But going back, that was the whole point of comedy, is to make people laugh. But then also, it's the people who are making it worse than what it is.
No, you're absolutely right about that, and it's the decriers and people who are, like you said, too sensitive. And I think part about comedy is you have to have a thick skin and realize that to enjoy comedy, you have to be willing to laugh at yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I've actually I've got a little clip here of Dave Chappelle talking about this specific situation. Actually,
taking it too far. I don't know why or how everybody got this goddamn sensitive. You know who hates me the most? The transgender community. Yeah, these motherfuckers. I mean, I didn't realize how bad it was. These motherfuckers. I was really mad about that last Netflix special.
It's the way he presents it.
I don't know what to do about it, because I like them. I always have. Never had a problem with them. Just fucking around.
So that clip is. I think that's interesting. Because I think to bring a point, I feel like if I, as a trans person, were to sit down with Dave Chappelle at lunch, I feel like we'd have a fine lunch.
Oh yeah.
I don't think he'd be a man that would make me uncomfortable or say something rude to me. I think, I mean, not that, I would take it that way. I think if Dave Chappelle made fun of me, I think it'd be akin to Gordon Ramsay toasting like a fresh chef, that's like you wish for, I wish Dave made fun of me, like.
And that's like, I used to work with a producer named Rob Gargiulo for Bubba's show, right? Which I always say I love Bubba's show. I always enjoyed working there. I learned a lot from him. He was a great mentor. But anyways, an executive producer for the show, Rob Gargiulo, I think he's doing a show in Miami or Fort Lauderdale now. But he's a comedian. And I asked him, like, how do you set yourself up to do all this stuff for like an hour? And he goes, be honest with you, if it works, it works. If it's laughable, it's laughable. And you're only good as your last show,
Yeah.
And if you keep on dwelling on other people doing this and doing that, then for one, they're not getting the joke to begin with. And for two, they're there for a different perspective.
Yeah.
It's like I see all the time. This is what, I've come to realize in my age, I'm 42 years old. Okay. And I've come to realize in my age that even though I'm respectful and all that jazz, it's so hard, even on the podcasting side of things, to talk about certain subjects because, for one, I've been through the fire with this whole deal, and I'm still not happy with it. Because that's a different story, a different time. But that's probably when I'm drunk. That's probably the best time. But I've been through the fire. I've been through the rigor and more. And even though I've said and I bled and I've done all this stuff and I said yes to everything and never told the individual people no to any job that was given to me and blah, blah, other people were just fucking around and doing bullshit like that, I still got the check at the end of the deal.
Yeah.
Which is not, to me, it's I wouldn't wish that on anybody, because if you're coming into a particular job, and I know we're getting off the beaten path with this guy, but if we're getting, if you're getting a particular job, I mean, like for me, I don't like I said before, I don't care. I don't care how you live your life. Just don't put kids involved with it. Don't. Boy, I gotta stop. So you opened up a whole new door that
where's the can of worms button? Woo!
Yeah, I know. I need something like sound. Yeah. Well, it's weird because this story really relates to what I was dealing with, and it also relates to what you're dealing with, and it also relates to everybody else is dealing with the same thing, whether on one side of the fence or the other.
Yeah.
And
it's super interesting how, on our very different experiences, we can kind of find that through line of saying like, I'm, obviously I'm somebody who, has a very unique set of beliefs that's kind of not typical to, someone like me. But at the end of the day, I think we got to be the ones that step up and say something. And I think, it's like ironic that this situation with Dave has come to this point because it's like, I feel like Dave is somebody who empowered me to speak up and be myself and be rebellious and be and laugh in the face of my enemies and say, I'm going to do this my way.
And to be honest with you, are your enemies because your lifestyle choice, or is your enemies because you particularly don't care for them for something they did to you emotionally, or they threw you under the bus?
Right, and I think it's like you got to take personal out of it, and like regardless of the fact that the funniest thing is that even though I'm somebody who I've watched the specials and and I'm not offended, I'm just bored of the material. I just think at a certain point it gets to be where I'm like, okay, you're beating a dead horse here, move on, man. And that's my real true issue. It's really not even a matter of that. So it's like I'll sit back and rewatch it. To this day, I'll still say like, my respect for Dave Chappelle is tremendous because I know that there's no personal attacks in anything that he said.
And I don't think with any comic, like for example, Lewis Black. Have you heard of him?
Love Lewis Black.
He's gay too. But
really?
Yeah, but he's funny as hell.
I would never even. I mean, but it's irrelevant. It's like
he's funny as shit.
I never even knew that. I've been buying his comedy albums for like 10 years.
But the thing is that we are at what's called an ELLE event. You ever heard of that before?
No.
That stands for an extinction level event.
Ooh.
We are at the stage in our society to where, I mean, you could just turn on the news or turn on YouTube or social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. You could just see it for yourself. Like, for example, even that whole trans movement that's going on, people that have been like, oh my God, plus for trans, blah, 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 men can get pregnant. Now they're going, wait a minute, this is wrong. And I'm thinking to myself, it took you this long to figure that out?
Yeah, well, I think that there is a line where, I think in terms of how we respect people's identity versus living in reality and acknowledging, I feel like, to kind of flip the script, like I feel like I've been made to feel ashamed of the fact that I was born a biological male and that I should not be acknowledging it in any way, and I need to pretend that I'm a biological woman and act and label myself as such, or else I will not be acceptable by society, because that is the only true way, according to like a lot of left media, and that's something I just do not align myself with, because it's simply not true. I think that that is just a part of who I am, and I don't know why that is such a difficult thing for people to stand.
It's not difficult, to be honest with you, because listen, in my years of working in retail and entertainment and stuff like that, I have been called every single name that you could probably think of. And I know they're probably like, oh, there's a, okay, then call me. The thing is that you got to live your life, and people have got to stop worrying about what other people are saying, okay? If the old saying is sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me, which is true. Okay, if you're a trans person, you truly believe that you're supposed to be a female or a male, okay, well that's great. That's fine. That's how you believe it.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't shun people because they don't believe in the same ideology as you do.
Exactly, because just like they have the right and I have the right, or whoever else has the right to transition and make our choice, someone else also has that same exact right to not believe or agree with.
And see, all this stuff has been talked about before COVID.
Yes.
Like all this stuff, even when I was like in the 90s, when I was, growing up, 15, 16, 70s, that was all, everybody knew that. You respected each other. You didn't sit there and throw somebody into the bonfire because they called you a gay person.
Well, and that's exactly a perfect segue into my last talking point here on the hour, which is a note about cancel culture, and sort of how why I feel that this whole canceling Dave Chappelle that the left side has put forward is simply ineffective, false, and a false narrative, and simply because of the fact that, in my opinion, canceling people does not solve the problem.
No.
You have to be able to have the dialogue. If I cancel Dave Chappelle, if I block Dave Chappelle, if I say I'm not speaking to Dave Chappelle, I'm not listening to Dave Chappelle's media, and I think that's the issue is, you close yourself off and you don't allow yourself to have that dialogue and have that growth.
But here's
so I think that there's room for growth on all sides.
Okay, but here's my question.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is just me, so don't take this the wrong way, okay?
Of course.
If I was gay or trans, right? Okay,
Right.
I wouldn't want to have a conversation, okay? Because the point of having a conversation is going, how's your tea? What are you doing? Not the fact of like, okay, well, Dave Chappelle talked bad about trans, so we should cancel him, and that's what we're going to do 100%. Okay, if that's your mindset because you're looking, here's two different things. If you go to a movie and you just watch a movie for the movie and you critique it about the movie, then that's great. But if you go there and you go, well, this movie had X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 left, right, blah, 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 politics, blah, 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 then you're going in there for the wrong reasons. And you're not enjoying yourself. Like most of these people are looking. Like when I was in terrestrial radio, we would have to watch our backs every single day, whether it be on video or audio, because there's some jamoke, if not more, that are sitting there recording and or video recording everything that happens. That way they could use it to get back at them or whatever they want to use it for. Is that right morally? No. But the point is that is it really that big of a deal to be?
No, I mean, I think, the dialogue on cancel culture, I mean, in terms of, do we have to have a dialogue? No, not really. But I think in terms of, saying, let's say if Dave Chappelle was my friend, let's say he's not a famous comedian, let's say he's my buddy, he's sitting across from the lunch table, we're having lunch at Olive Garden, whatever, and, he says something that offends me. I have two choices. I can walk away and I can block this man and I can cancel this man from my life, or I can engage with this man and I can have a conversation like an adult. And I can say, hey, I think we might disagree about this. Why do you think that is? I think we can have an adult conversation. I don't think there needs to be, when you close yourself off from that is the dialogue, the adult conversation. And that's where there's a level of immaturity that's at play.
Okay, and I understand that, and I get that. But see, here's my problem with that. Back in the day, we didn't have this. We didn't have this, let's have a conversation because your dog is purple. Okay? What we did is basically, for example, let's just use you and I, for example. Perfect example. Okay? If I go, you know what, Dame, I don't like your lifestyle. I think it's shit. Hyperbole, so don't nobody take this to Bible. Okay? Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm just joking around here, okay? So anyways, and I go, listen, you're shit, you're suck ass. All right, it may offend you, but then again, what kind of conversation do you need to have about that? Because I would expect you to say, you know what, you're a fat son of a bitch and looks fucking bald. That's the point.
Maybe that's the conversation, but maybe there isn't one,
That's what I'm saying. Why do you have to have a conversation about not you particularly, but everything that happens? Okay, that's adding more stuff, like for a recipe. When you do a recipe, yeah, you may tweak a little, but when you put 6 pounds of shit on a 1 ounce pie, I mean, do you get where I'm going with this?
Well, yeah, but let's be real. And also, I'm never going to have a dialogue with Dave Chappelle. Let's be real. I'm not.
Well, whoever. It doesn't matter if it's Dave Chappelle or Brody.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is I kind of look at it in the law of the way I exercise all my other media properties. Like when I take in anything, like I look at, let's say, for an example, Miley Cyrus, right? At one point, I thought Miley Cyrus wrote some decent songs. And then for a decade, she wrote a lot of crappy songs. And then I was at kind of a point where I was like, I've been waiting, and don't get me wrong, there's some demos that she's got on the internet that are really, really good, and I think she's going to drop something at some point that's going to blow everybody away. I don't think it's happened yet. Everyone thinks it's already happened. I don't think it's happened yet. And even though I'm not a fan of anything she's doing or put out right now, I still click on her content every now and then, and I still peep in and look because there's a part of me that says, this person has potential to grow into something cool, and I'm going to keep myself open, even if I disagree, even if I don't like what they're doing at the time. And I think that's the mindset that I've applied to Dave Chappelle, sort of in that, even if I don't agree, or even if I don't, I'm not going to have a dialogue, so to speak, but I am going to remain open-minded, and I'm going to listen, and I'm going to pay attention, because that's the communicative way to process information. I mean, I should be taking in information with common sense, and I should be forming opinions based on that, not based on conjecture, and based on emotion, which is that's the issue. It's not rational. It's irrational opinions.
That's right. That's true. Everybody comes in and very emotional, even with this subject that we're talking about now. I mean, even if you would like to, I can get into the whole deal with that deal. I have no problem talking with it because on my end, I don't feel that I have done anything wrong. Okay. I have kept my respect to the highest point. And business-wise, there's just certain people that just, and this is why when I worked there, I had certain friends, certain close friends, and I'm sure you probably know who those are. But other than that, I kept that line of friendship very, 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 very thin, because what I have learned, in the 20 plus years that I've been doing entertainment is not to trust anybody. Because even if you trust the person that you're working with or whatever the case, unless you really, 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 really get to know them and you guys have that bond with them, you know what I mean? Like a one-on-one, like if the person takes a crap, you're going to clean that up type of bond. Then I don't trust anybody in that, because the entertainment in itself, even in Hollywood, is a cutthroat department. They will throw the person under the bus to make them look better. You know, and it's sad because back in the day, things were like, okay, I'm going to throw you under the bus because I want that role, right? Now it's like, I'm going to throw you under the bus because I don't want you here. And that's the way.
Yeah, that's the culture that's been perpetuated, man. And
I think it's after COVID.
We're coming, yeah.
I think it's, to be honest with you, I think it's after COVID because, and I've had this conversation off the air with a couple of people, and they've kind of said the same thing, like, oh, and I explained to them my deposition on it, and they go, well, it kind of makes sense. I'm like, listen, don't sit there and be, you know, pro me because I'm telling you this. I want you to be biased, and I want you to think about and research about what I'm talking about, because if you look at the timeline of our societies laid out, for one, how can social media platforms itself be accountable for the mob doing whatever? Because when Facebook, Twitter, and all that stuff was first rolled out, that's what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a non-detrimental social / experiment that it gives people a way to talk about whatever and whenever, like Reddit. But nowadays, you have the computer bullies and this and that and blah, blah, blah. But other times, you have people that, for example, there was a girl that posted up, she was a stripper, she posted up money that she made, and she got jacked up at her home, and her friend got killed, and she was sent to the emergency room.
Wow.
You know, or there's a person who does not like a certain culture, another state, and that was all over Facebook because everybody had. I guarantee you, if you could tell a person to pull out their first picture they did on their phone, if they still have it, or tell them to open up Facebook, which do you think they'll be able to do faster?
No idea.
Facebook.
Probably, yeah. Actually,
I guarantee you. Because every time there's an incident with a population or a crowd, what do you see going up? Everybody's phones. I gotta be the next journalist. Oh, look at me.
Yeah, everyone's got to get in on the nugget. So we're on the end of our hour here, but I'm just going to wrap up at, well, on our half-hour mark anyway. I'm going to wrap up and leave with this part. Basically, that we are indoctrinated into a Orwellian 1984 culture where the eyeball and Big Brother is consuming itself, the snake is consuming its own head, and we are merely the jesters who laugh and watch. And so thank you for spending this half hour with us. When we get back from the commercial break, we'll be discussing more on Greta Gerwig's Barbie after this.
Is that the new movie?
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah, I'm going to be doing
it.
Yeah, but I'm going to be doing Barbie for my second half of the
Awesome, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Sorry.
We are wrapped. Thank you so much.
Oh, no worries. I don't